Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments. Are you ready for the most exciting, most boring video I have ever debuted on this channel? If you are watching this video right now, understand that you are in the minority. Most people don't come to YouTube to get educated on the antique side of the antiques and collectibles equation. No, they're too busy watching videos on what 5 comic books you should invest in over the next few years. Or what 5 Pokemon cards are going to go to the moon? Or what cryptocurrency is going to do over the next 6 months and why you should cash out everything you have and put all your money in cryptocurrency, gold, Pokemon cards, and comic books. And obviously, if you think I'm serious in that assessment, you have not watched this channel for any length of time. What I teach on this channel is the basics of understanding not only alternate asset investing, but also how the antiques and collectibles trade operates from somebody who has been involved in the trade for literally several decades and is also educated in business, economics, and finance. If this is the first video of mine that you are watching, welcome to the channel. I hope you do find this interesting. I hope you do offer to at least leave a comment in this video to let me know how you like this video. Today we are going to be talking about the differences between primitive, rustic, and country style as it relates to the antiques side of the equation. Now this is very important because I see a lot of experts in the trade. I see a lot of enthusiasts. I even see a lot of well-meaning ethical antique dealers that mix up these terms. And if you would ask them point blank, what are some differences between an item that is primitive, rustic, or country and/or country style? They could not give you a fair answer. So this video is very important. So before we begin, I need you to understand that this is going to apply mainly to decorating, antique furniture, and also when we talk about primitive, which I'm going to get to in a bit, there's going to be other items that fall under this category. For anybody out there that has watched an episode of Antiques Roadshow, maybe you watched an episode of American Pickers, you probably come across the term primitives in regards to the antiques trade. Even if you've paged through a copy of Warman's Guide to Collectibles or a price guide that was produced by Cobble on collectibles, you've had to come across the term primitive. Now, primitive antiques are a category all their own. It's true that when we talk about primitive antique furniture, it falls under the category of primitives. But overall, primitives can be any item or antique that has a utilitarian purpose. So you're talking furniture, dishware, tools, cookie items, all those type of antiques can be considered primitive. There are certain characteristics, though, that cause something to be defined as primitive, and other characteristics that exclude an item from being considered primitive. So before we talk about rustic, before we talk about country and/or country style, we have to define what primitive is, because this is one of the most confusing aspects of the entire antiques trade when we start talking about antique furniture, when we start talking about decor, decorating, and the like. For an item to be considered primitive, it has to be crude, simple, and/or unrefined. It has to be from an early period of history. It also has to be made by a primitive artist. Now, this is very important because if it is an item that is linked to a very famous craftsman or a famous artist that is known for his craftsmanship of this particular type of item, it, by its definition, cannot be a true primitive antique or antique furnishing. Another thing that primitives are known for is they are known for being the first or the earliest of their kind. There's a lot of people out there that collect primitive antique tools. There's a lot of people out there that collect primitive antique dishware or even cookware. Those are popular categories in the primitive side of the antique equation. Now, one of the primary characteristics that people do not understand when it comes to primitives is that primitives cannot be, by their definition, mass-produced. Now, if you live in the United States like me, I'm going to give you a little hint here. Mass production came to the United States right around 1830. So if you are looking at a true primitive antique, the way that you can date that item, assuming it was handmade, it was pretty much produced before 1830 by an unknown craftsman or an unknown artist. Now, one thing you got to watch for, if you're going to pay a premium for a primitive antique, there's a lot of fakes out there. Because Timmy, Kimmy, Poindexter Jr., they can sit in their garage, they can make something handmade, they can try to age it, and they can pass it off as a primitive piece of antique furniture. And it's possible that they could fool another Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter out there. Now, obviously, an antique expert, he's going to know how items truly age. He's going to know what to look for. That pretty much puts that item in a category all its own so that he could say, you know what, this is an authentic, primitive, antique piece. So this is very important. The key point here is, if you're dealing with a primitive item, it cannot be mass-produced. Now, let's go on and let's define what a rustic piece is. Now, a question that I get asked a lot as a consultant in the antiques and collectibles trade, Sean, I went on Wayfair.com or I went to Raymore and Flanagan Furniture Center and I saw a piece that was defined as rustic. How can a piece made in the year 2021 be considered rustic? Well, my good friend, step into my office. You're going to get an education here. An item that is mass-produced, even in the year 2021, why it obviously cannot meet the definition of being a primitive, it can be considered rustic. And this is what confuses a lot of people. Rustic pieces are generally made of tree roots and or limbs. They have rough, irregular surfaces, and they also have characteristics of being natural. They have a vibe to them all their own. They would not look out of place on a patio or outside or in a decorated place that is trying to represent an aura of nature or naturality. This is something that separates rustic pieces from country and from primitive. Now, this is something that confuses a lot of people. Going back to my first point made about rustic pieces. They can be mass-produced, even in the year 2021. So overall, the term rustic is generally a style of something. It is not a way to age something. A primitive piece has to be handcrafted, and in general, it is most likely produced before 1830, with few exceptions. There are certain people that did come along, they made a piece, it's considered primitive, and it was made after mass production in 1830. We're not going to talk about that in this video because that goes far in advanced concepts when we talk about antique furniture. For the most part, though, a rustic piece can be mass produced even in the present year 2021. A primitive piece cannot. Now, how does this fit in as to how we define country and or country style? Well, a country piece is typically rural in nature. It is generally, not always, unfinished and or unsophisticated, and it hails from a particular country or area. Now, this is very important because the term country or country style is a very broad term that describes many styles. For instance, if you study antique and collectible furniture, you're going to come across terms like American country, French country, lodge, cottage style. All these are different styles that fit into the genre of country and or country decor. Even coastal decor can be considered country in nature. Now, what all these styles share is a casual vibe. This is very important. An emphasis on natural materials, natural woods that are frequently in an unfinished or a weathered state is what really defines country and or country style. There's a lot of people that will take a country piece, they'll refurbish it to the point where they paint it blue or yellow or pink or orange, and it still has that old wood-looking vibe to it. And they'll put it in a house, they'll put it in a cottage, and it'll look very nice. That is known as country or country style. So, one of the main differences is when we use the term country, most country pieces were not made out of tree roots or limbs. So that's what determines whether it could be considered rustic or if it is truly, truly a country piece. Now, obviously, a country piece can be mass produced in the year 2021 if we are using the term country style. In most cases, though, a country piece describes French country, American country, lodge, cottage, coastal decor. It's more of an identifying characteristic of a piece. I hope this video served you well. In this video, you learned the difference and the overlap of primitive, rustic, and country or country style. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think of this video. I should be getting a lot of interesting comments from my longtime viewers. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.